Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly chat. Hope everyone is staying safe. And as we go through some, sort of heat wave across different parts of the country, today's session is appropriately, focused on HVAC. So we're going to go through trends in and around the HVAC industry. As always, we have our friend Eric Arnum that's going to walk us through these trends. And please provide any questions that you have that will be addressed either through the webinar or right once we're done. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you very much, and welcome to all of you to our first webinar on the Zoom platform. It's certainly not our first Zoom. We've been doing those almost every day for the past 2 or 3 months now. But anyway, yes, Roshan, a great observation. Here in Queens, New York, it is hazy, hot, and humid. And it's almost time to turn on the air conditioner, but not quite yet. Instead, I have the windows open, so forgive me if you hear any noise. The good news is that instead of, like we heard in March and April, all the ambulances outside, now what we're going to hear is the return of New York City noise. Honking horns, people screaming, airplanes taking off from LaGuardia, you name it, you're going to start hearing it. Or maybe it'll be another quiet afternoon, who knows. But anyway, as Roshan mentioned, we're going to look at HVAC as well as household appliances this week, the warranty expense trends, patterns, and some of the anomalies that we found in the data that comes out of this industry. For many years now, we've been taking a look at the annual reports of all the manufacturers, both in the US as well as elsewhere in Europe and Asia. But today we'll be focusing just on the US players. The manufacturers are required to release details of their warranty expenses. You'll find them in the annual reports, usually in the notes towards the end. They will list the beginning and ending balance in their warranty reserve funds. They'll also reveal how much they've spent on claims and how much they're setting aside as warranty accruals. And each year around this time, I finish gathering that data from the manufacturers, put it all together and try and find some trends for you. So this webinar series, we've been going through them one by one. We went through automotive, trucks, cars, planes. In the electronic sector, we did computers and we did telecom equipment and several others. And so now, we're on to, I guess, what we'll call the buildings sector. All of the industries that have to do with construction and buildings and residences and office buildings and what have you. So we're looking at HVAC and appliance. We do count them separately. There's a good reason for that. You see that HVAC, there's a whole lot more warranty expense. There's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is that in the household appliance space, many of the Japanese and Chinese companies have been very successful at importing their gear into the United States. That's not reflected in these charts. So, any of the Chinese or Japanese companies are not included this time around. In the meantime, in the HVAC space, it is mostly still a domestic U.S. industry. There's not a whole lot of imports. There are some foreign-owned companies, but they're actually manufacturing domestically, much like, Toyota and BMW and Hyundai and many of the passenger car manufacturers do. What you see here is that just in terms of claims, the HVAC industry saw claims fall 14% last year to $1.357 billion. You see the numbers right there on the chart. Appliance claims fell by 30%, but don't pay too much attention to that drop because most of it had to do with Newell Newell. It's a manufacturer. They own all sorts of brands: Coleman, Mr. Coffee, Sunbeam, Oster, a couple of other household brands. It's just the way that they were accounting for warranty. They're only giving their beginning and ending balance. They're not telling us, more. So it's just some estimates going on there. But in terms of hard numbers, Whirlpool was down quite a bit, $59 million drop for Whirlpool last year. But again, I'm suggesting you don't pay too much notice to that because everything changed for Whirlpool in the first quarter of this year, January, February, March quarter of 2020. Now we're looking at the amount of accruals made by these companies. Once again, HVAC was down, this time by 11%. That was, again, it's not a real drop because the big reason for that drop is that one of the big HVAC companies, it's a company called Johnson Controls. What they had been doing was counting their product warranty and their extended warranty together. They're not supposed to do that. The accounting regulations say that you're supposed to separate your what they call assurance type warranty from your service type warranty. Let's drop those definitions. Let's just call it product warranty, extended warranty. So what happened is Johnson Controls restated their product warranty numbers so that they exclude extended warranty. And that in and of itself created $150 million in decrease. So, and if you want to find out more about this, you should Google ASC 606. That's the regulation. That's Alpha Sam Charlie 606. But there were also big drops for Honeywell and Masco and a couple of other companies. On the appliance side, accruals were actually up by 17%. That again, you can trace that right back to Whirlpool, and you can trace that to a recall that's underway now in the UK. But I'll get to more about that in a little while. The third metric we're looking at is the reserve balance, the year-ending balance in the warranty reserves of, what's this? We're looking at something like 80 different companies put together. There's 40 on the HVAC side, and there's about 40 on the appliance side. You can see that the HVAC reserves were down by 92 million, or that's about a 3% drop. But when you look deeper into that, you'll find that United Technologies and Emerson Electronic actually saw their balance rise a little bit. Honeywell and Johnson Controls, which I mentioned, were down. Masco, however, was way down. It dropped by $133 million. That's a 61% decline for Masco. On the appliance side, reserves were up by 129 million, or around 20%. Again, mostly Whirlpool. Give me a second to get to that. What I want to show you first is something that happened on the HVAC side. The problem has always been that many of these companies are not pure plays in either appliances or in HVAC equipment. They make something else. So in the case of United Technologies, it's a huge aerospace manufacturer. They own Pratt & Whitney, and they make helicopters, jet engines, they make avionics, and they also own Carrier, which makes the HVAC equipment, and they own Otis Elevator, which I don't have to tell you what Otis makes. But the thing is, it's a conglomerate, or it was a conglomerate, because what happened just a few weeks ago, actually, is United Technologies merged with Raytheon, which is another aerospace defense manufacturer. They changed their name from United Technologies to Raytheon Technologies. Pretty much at the same moment, they spun off Carrier as a separate company, and they spun off Otis as a separate company. And what they did for the first quarter of 2020 is to release their new numbers for Raytheon, Carrier, and Otis as separate entities. And they also released their year ago numbers for the first quarter of 2019. So suddenly, what we used to call United Technologies, now we know how much was Carrier, how much was Raytheon, and that tiny sliver at the top there that you see is Otis. So it's accurate to say that most of their warranty expenses came from the aerospace side. You know, only a small portion came from the HVAC side. So let's see, where are we now? We're looking at the HVAC equipment industry as a whole. This is for 40 different companies averaged together. What we've done is we've taken the claims data and the accrual data that you just saw, and we're dividing them by sales to get to get a pair of percentages. Claims as a percentage of sales and accruals as a percentage of sales. And you see it's the claims rate and the accrual rate in red and in green on this chart. And you see two things, is that for most of the time, they've been very close to 1%. And for most of the time, this chart has been relatively flat. That's a good thing because it shows consistency, stability, predictability. It's not only what you want to see out of your warranty department, but that's what you want to see out of your product line as well. You don't want a product line that's creating all sorts of chaos out there in the marketplace. You want it to work day after day after day. And that's more or less what the HVAC equipment industry has done. It's very predictable, very reliable. It's really only one, I mean, compared to something like your Wi-Fi router, which seems to go out every week, your HVAC, your heating, your cooling, well, it's pretty reliable. And this data proves that. So I mentioned United Technologies became Raytheon, and Carrier was separated from them. What I want to show you here is now this is 3 pair of lines. At the bottom, you see Otis for the first quarter of 2019, first quarter of 2020. Otis has very low expense rates. So again, elevators, they don't throw off much warranty expense. But then the 2 pair of lines up top, I didn't label them because that would get a bit crowded because they're really on top of each other. But what I want you to take away from this is that Carrier, as a new separate company, and Raytheon as a aerospace company have similar expense rates. So yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the HVAC industry and the aerospace industry, I don't know why, but you know, air conditioning and aerospace seem to have similar warranty expense rates. This chart proves that. And I'm sure as we get more data from Carrier going forward, that'll continue to be the case. That both industries are around 1%, or I should say are spending roughly 1% of their revenue on warranty. And that's very, very predictable and stable as a statistic. The reason I keep on using these words, predictability, stability, and things like that, is because of things like this. This is the appliance industry. This is the household appliance industry. Major appliances, kitchen appliances, laundry appliances, personal appliances. You know, there's everything from hair dryers and toasters and curlers in here to refrigerators and washing machines, dryers, you name it. All of the electrical appliances are in here. And what you see is, first of all, you see it goes up, it goes down. It does that within a year. So there's a seasonal pattern, but you see from 2003 to 2007, it went up. and then it went down, then it went back up again, then it went back down again. And if you look all the way over to the right side, 2020, there's new data in there. You see the upturn in 2020. It's slight. I mean, it's not huge, but you do see it's an upturn. But the point I want to make is that compared to that flat line I just showed you, this is chaotic. This is unpredictable. This is all over the place. It goes up to 2.8%, it goes down to 0.5%, and everything in between. Let me see, what did I want to tell you about here? Yeah, the long-term average, if it really means anything here, is 1.5% for the claims rate and 1.6% for the accrual rate. But the standard deviation for all you statisticians out there is 0.4%, which is relatively high given this data set. And that's what that high standard deviation suggests, is a whole lot of chaos. Back on the HVAC side, the average was 0.8% to 1%. The standard deviation was only 0.11%, I believe. So there's a lot of chaos here. And not to single anybody out, but this is a single company, Whirlpool Corporation. It's obviously a very large company. The brand name is known all over the world. But what you see here is you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, it depends how you count them, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 spikes or troughs, you know, where it goes up like that or it goes down like that. You know, it either takes off for the sky or dives for the ground. It happens time after time again. And although there is a generally downward trend over the last 17 years, you see there in 2020, the claims rate shot back up again to 3%. Actually, it even went a little bit above 3%, 3.1% in the first quarter of 2020. So let me tell you what's going on here. Back in 2014, Whirlpool made an acquisition of a European company called Indesit, I-N-D-E-S-I-T. I believe they're based in Italy, but they're selling all over Europe. Whirlpool acquired the company, and then in 2015, you look here, you see the big green, the jump in the green line in 2015. That was a big recall of Indesit clothes dryers. Allegedly, they're bursting into flames, which is quite a defect, but they had to be recalled in 2015. So you see the green line surges in 2015 and the red line surges in 2016 and again in 2017. So this is basically, this is warranty 101. First you put the money aside and then you spend the money. That's what we're seeing here. The green line is when you put the money aside and the red line is when you pay the bills. But what's happened more recently is that Indesit's clothes washers seem to have some defects in them. And now the clothes washers are being recalled just in the UK and Ireland right now. But, you know, who knows, maybe that will spread as well. And also in between, it's not a warranty story or even a recall story, but I have to mention this, that it was allegedly an Indesit manufactured refrigerator that burst into flames and burned down the Grenfell Tower in London 3 years ago in June 2017. That fire, if you remember it, on the news, it was you know, covered very widely. It killed 72 people. That allegedly began with a refrigerator fire on the 4th floor made by Indesit. So anyway, long story short, Whirlpool acquired Indesit. I bet they regret that. Usually I like to, let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay. Usually I like to end with showing you some of the largest companies in the sector and how they've done in the major warranty metrics from one year to the next. What we're looking at here is the annual changes. We're comparing this year and last year, 12 months of change. The top, these are the best. These are where the rates went down. The bottom, that's the worst. These are where the rates went up. So where you are in the chart, you know, is really reflective of how well you're doing. Masco's doing great. Johnson Controls, I mentioned to you, that's an anomaly because of their restatement of their separation between their product warranty and their extended warranty. United Technologies, I think that's related to the mergers and acquisitions and spin-offs that they've gone through. Ingersoll Rand is doing great, but I have to say that company name is now outdated. It's now called Trane, T-R-A-N-E. There's a complex transaction they underwent where Trane and Gardner Denver are now, well, we won't get into that. It's very convoluted. But anyway, Ingersoll Rand has changed its name to Trane, and Gardner Denver has changed its name to Ingersoll Rand. Honeywell, of course, you know them from the thermostats. Middleby. It's, well, it's not a consumer appliance company. It's very famous in the commercial appliance side. Much of the restaurant equipment, the same story goes for Well-Built. As a matter of fact, these are commercial appliance manufacturers. They're selling to restaurants and catering companies, hotels, cafeterias, what have you. A.O. Smith, of course, is a supplier, and Whirlpool is the consumer appliance company. Now, this is the claims side. Here we're looking at the at the accrual side. Once again, Masco, Johnson Controls at the top. Once again, Whirlpool there at the bottom, although Lennox has seen its claims rate jump. Not by much, you know, it's only 0.3%, but it represents a third, third of a percent increase if you jump from 0.9 to 1.2. So, you know, it relatively, it's 0.3, well, no, absolutely it's only 0.3%, but relatively it's a big jump. It represents almost like a third. So, you know, that's really where you are depends on where you've been. I'm not comparing these companies against each other. I'm comparing them against themselves a year ago. So anyway, I wanted to remind you that if you want to look more into ASC 606 about the separation that's required now between product warranty and extended warranty. Again, I wanted to emphasize that the HVAC side is very, very stable, but the appliance side is very, very unstable, unpredictable. And with that, I think we, let's see, we have a few minutes for questions or comments. Roshan, what do we got out there?
Not so many questions, but more observations right now. I think with the HVAC space especially, there is, it's like a huge focus on data right now.
Yes.
With the inability to, have a lot of technicians really get into your home, with the constraints from a commercial, deployment standpoint and the market overall, right? Understanding data and providing customer service is, taking front and center focus. Right? So I think it's very interesting, even from a Tavant standpoint, a lot of our conversations are really focused around data right now. Even from a transaction standpoint, if we are looking at transaction system conversations, it still comes down to decision making. And how do you enable faster decision making? How do you enable, faster visibility? How do you enable faster payout, right? So that, the distributor channels, the service technicians, everyone running small businesses have, a quicker way to get paid. So I think data is becoming, so critical for everything that is going to make this industry, I think, far more efficient. It is, like you said, Eric, there's a lot of stability there with respect to how claims are, accrued, recognized, and service, I think, is going to be a far more important factor. It's always been, but I think it's getting a lot more focus over the last few months.
Yeah, I should mention I have a newsletter, Warranty Week, and when people sign up for that, they send me an email and say, please sign me up, and I look at their signature. I actually do read these messages. It's not done by a robot or anything, but I see in the signature file, I see their job title, and especially for the people in the HVAC industry, I see a whole lot of black belts, Six Sigma. They'll put initials after their name because they're practitioners of the science of using warranty data to make better products, to make products more reliable. And it's a science. Well, maybe it's an art also, but it's an art and a science of using warranty data, warranty analytics, the Six Sigma, measuring where you are, where you need to be, getting better all the time. I see that in the HVAC industry, and this chart is the best example I can find of the stability and reliability being reflected in the data for the industry.
Yeah, I think like a lot of things we have discussed, Eric, it would be very interesting to see how this data looks, say 6 months from now or a year from now. Some of the conversations that come up is with the lack of regular maintenance and service that has been availed over the last few months, with summer coming in. And, usually you tune your HVAC residential side at least, right? And I'm sure on the commercial side too. But getting someone inside your house to tune your, HVAC equipment, there aren't too many people doing that yet. So it'll be interesting to see if the number of claims change, right, over the next few months, right? So I think we should probably keep that as a talking point,
Yes.
a few months from now. But
funny you mentioned that, because my mother is getting an HVAC tune-up tonight. It's so hazy, hot, and humid here. She just can't hold out any longer. She's turning on the air conditioning tonight. But one thing I wanted to mention, last week I spoke about something that American Home Shield and Front Door were doing, where they were using this stream augmented reality technology to help technicians see the problem in the home before they go. I mentioned it to you that you take your cell phone, and the consumer actually takes the technician on a tour using the cell phone in their home. Well, just the other day, the news came that the stream technology has now been licensed to Lowe's, L-O-W-E-S. That's one of the major hardware stores, home improvement stores. And now Lowe's will be using that for HVAC, as well as other contracting projects, so that their technicians can virtually visit the home of their customers without actually having to roll a truck and show up at the doorstep. So once again, the pandemic is changing the way that service is delivered. And this stream technology, this augmented reality technology, is coming into play.
thank you everyone for your time. Thank you, Eric, as always. And, all of you have a safe, week ahead, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.